Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio. And today we are so happy to once again be joined by the generous, the genuine Bridget Todd, the real deal, as they might say. Welcome, Bridget.
Thank you. I love the G theme. I'll take it.
Yes.
Go with the
I did
G
think
theme.
about this one beforehand. Sometimes
You're
I just come up with it,
glowing.
but I will admit.
Your skin looks amazing.
Oh,
I just want you
tretinoin.
like the glowing here. That's what I was thinking of the G theme. Hello.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
Keep complimenting me.
I'm
Yes,
just saying.
please.
looking good.
Well, Bridget, how have you been? Happy belated birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. My birthday is on Pie Day, which I always love to throw out. When I was a kid, I would have pie. Even though I'm not a huge pie person, I would have pie instead of cake on my birthday. I prefer cake.
Really?
Oh,
you
no.
and Annie.
The
Y'all gonna
face
fight.
Samantha just made when I said I prefer cake, you looked horrified.
No, I just know Annie's stance on this, and she's a pie girl. So,
Oh, you do
ooh.
I was
you
on a
are-
podcast that argued pie versus cake, and I won.
What were the merits of pie over cake?
Bridget, I can direct you to the podcast. Otherwise, we're going to have a 30-minute fight right now.
I love that I love that you have such a clarified say. Like, I can take. Here's a resource for you. You know.
Yes. But if that's your preference, then I salute you.
What kind of cake, though? What's your favorite?
Ooh, what a good question. I'm a pretty traditional cake person. First of all, there's no cake that I will not try. I like the yellow cake with chocolate icing.
Oh.
I like a cream cheese icing. I am not above just a Duncan Hines box mix funfetti cake. Honestly, all cake. I am, but you can't see it, but behind me there's a chocolate cream cheese cake on my counter. And when I'm done with all my calls and interviews and stuff, that's gonna be a slice of that cake is gonna be my reward for that.
Cheesecake. So is cheesecake, you consider that a cake or a
Oh,
I'm just going to ask you all the questions.
what a good question.
Because that's how I would celebrate my birthday. Traditionally, my mother would make me a mini chocolate chip cheesecake for my birthday. It was very specific. And then from then on, she would get me a cheesecake of some sort that she was like testing out. But I did, like, the debate was, is this an actual cake? Could this be considered cake?
I don't know that I would call it cake because the time that I made a cheesecake, I don't think I baked it.
Oh, really?
I think that baking might be something that has to happen for it to be a cake. I believe the time that I made a cheesecake, it was no bake. Also,
Really?
it kind of almost put me off cheesecake. I don't know if you ever made one from scratch, but the
Yes.
ingredients are like 8 sticks of butter,
Yeah.
8 things of sour cream, 8 things of cream cheese. You're like, you never think about what actually goes into a cheesecake. And then when you actually make one, you're like, wow, that's a lot of sugar and
Yeah.
cream.
No, it's intense. So the kind of cheesecakes I would bake is literal. It would be baked, but you have to have the springform pan and the trick trying not to let it crack. That was the true test. I never did have a perfect cheesecake.
No,
quit
this is
for
why I
that.
do the no bake because that's too much. Kudos to your mom for figuring that out.
She was really good.
Oh, yes. Well, cake talk aside,
Mhm.
you were in South by Southwest. How was that?
It was really good. I will say I've been a lot. I've been going to South by Southwest on and off for a long time, and I really enjoy it. I usually spend my birthday there. This time, I also spent my birthday there. I've seen it go from a kind of hip little arts and music forward festival. I think that there was a time where it got really tech bro heavy, where they added in tech as its own activation and like everything was tech. I remember going the year that everybody was talking about NFTs, and it was every session, every talk, every this, every that, every activation was NFTs. And then going the next year and it was like NFTs who? We don't know her. So this year they dialed down the tech a little bit. And I think even as a tech person, I think that was good. I think that was the right choice. Just more film, more culture, more art, more music. Tech was still there. People like me were still there. But I think it felt good having, you don't want to go to these events and have it just be an AI hype machine. And oftentimes that's what it's felt like. And it felt a little, that was dialed, it was still there, but dialed down to the point of, okay, I can tolerate this.
Didn't they do something special with Podcast Movement? Like they joined together, right?
They did. Podcast Movement happened at South by Southwest this year. They had the iHeartRadio Podcast Awards from South by Southwest this year. iHeart had a whole activation, the iHeart Podcast Hotel. I got to see some familiar faces from the iHeart fam. Yeah, so it was just one big amalgamation of South by podcasts, podcast events, podcast awards. I met Killer Mike. At one of the events, Ramsey, who we all know, was there. And I was like, oh my God, Ramsey, shut up for a second. I think that's Killer Mike. And he was like, not only is that Killer Mike, I am working on a podcast with Killer Mike. And like, would you like to meet him? I'm rarely starstruck. It is rare in my life that I'm like, this person is someone that I really like and respect. I think Killer Mike might think I'm nonverbal. Like that's how the interaction went.
Like he is an Atlanta staple. Like he is.
Have y'all ever seen
iconic.
him around?
Yes. So I've seen him around doing a few things here and there. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You see him about town.
Yeah. He got his places to go. We started watching some YouTube series and they came to Atlanta and they highlighted Killer Mike because he's such a staple of Atlanta. That yes, he's a man about town.
Thinking about it, I guess because you all live in Atlanta, it's probably a lot less exciting to see people like, you probably see people like that around all the time. And it's probably not the same as it is to me, where living in DC, the only celebrity I might see is like Mitch McConnell, which is not really the same thing.
Different reactions, fair.
Although my friends went to a music festival and they were standing next to AOC. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
It's still exciting.
Yeah. That is exciting. I mean, I've never, just to be clear, I've seen Killer Mike, but I don't know what would happen if I tried to talk to Killer. So I don't know that I would be any better than you.
No rubbing of the elbows.
No. Just there he is.
We know him from a distance.
Yes, but I actually was curious, and this brings us to our topic, which I'm very excited to talk about, is if you said that they kind of dialed down the AI at South by Southwest, but were there conversations or anything about what's going on with AI and art there?
Yes. Oh, good question. It's actually a funny story. I probably shouldn't even say this, but so I was there for both South by Southwest and Podcast Movement that was happening at the same time. And I was there giving a talk. They were doing this series of talks throughout the day at Podcast Movement. And so I was giving one of the sort of signature talks that I do about why audiences are actually kind of skeptical of AI in their media and in their creative work, and what that means, and like how we should be. Basically, the long and short of it is that, especially in a medium like podcasting, the reason why people turn to podcasts is trust. And so if you dial up the AI, you are throwing away the thing that makes the medium not just good, but also lucrative, also like a good, medium. And so I'm designing my slides, and I use a case study of a specific AI podcast company. And I have a slide that has a picture of their, splash landing page. It's like, oh, this company makes podcasts with AI hosts and AI voices. And they say they can make, however many podcasts for like $1, and they're churning them out. And I was using that as like a negative, in my opinion, negative use case. I'm going over the slides with my producer. I'm like, oh, maybe I should take this out. Like the person whose company I'm talking about, she could be in the audience, might get awkward. Let me remove this slide. I show up to do my talk. Not only is that woman who runs the company there, she's talking right before me about her AI podcast company. So sets me up to be like, okay, everything that you just heard, here's why I disagree. But I am so glad that I took out that slide that was like specifically, screw this AI podcasting company. Am I right? I didn't actually say that in the talk, but that would have been the impression given. Yeah.
Who? Yeah, bullet dodge, perhaps.
Yeah, bullet dodged. Seriously. How awkward would that have been to be like, oh, hello.
Did she stick around for yours?
Oh, I don't know. That's actually a very good question.
Wonder.
I can't imagine anything that I had to say would have moved somebody who is gambling on the idea that audiences want more AI in their creative work, in their podcasts, in their media. When I think if you listen to what audiences are telling us, they're telling us the exact opposite. They don't want AI in their, really anywhere, but especially in their creative work. And that really dovetails nicely with the situation I want to talk about today.
Yes. And we were talking about this before. Samantha and I had never heard of this specific case, but it is a huge conversation right now. And I've heard of other cases, and there's a lot to unpack, and it is really interesting. So what specific case are we talking about today, Bridget?
I am talking about the writer drama unfolding around the book Shy Girl. And I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to sort of get your thoughts as authors and creatives and people who are thinking about AI and how it shows up in creative work in general. We all had a conversation a while back about why it is that women are using AI less in workplaces. And the researchers gave lots of reasons, but one of the reasons that women are less likely to use AI at work is that they are more likely to be accused of using AI as a negative thing and judged more harshly if there is suspicion that they are using AI. And so that was one of the reasons that researchers identified as to why women are using AI less in our work. So this drama with the novel Shy Girl, I think really reveals a lot of the anxiety that some of us feel around AI, particularly around how AI is being used or not used to produce media like writing. So I'll just give you the top lines of the situation. Mia Ballard is a Black woman poet and fiction writer. I had actually not heard of her nor read any of her writing before the situation hit my social media feed. It sounds like she writes a lot of stories with themes of feminine rage. And actually, I hate that the first time that I'm hearing about hers during a scandal, because it sounds like her genre of like weird girl literature would be very much up my alley.
Yes. I agree.
Is that a style of writing you all rock with?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I dig this.
Yeah, I'm in a subreddit called Weird Girl Literature, and every suggestion, I'm like, give me a book where a twisted woman does some twisted stuff, and I'm set.
That's my stay-in best night I can have.
Yes. So Mia initially self-published her novel called Shy Girl about a young woman who was forced to live as a pet to a man. The book actually had some like pretty good reviews on Goodreads, though. I would say they're kind of, some are very good and some are like not so good. I would call them like mixed. Some people specifically said that they loved the way that Mia writes. Other people were like, oh, I don't like this writing style at all. Last year, one of the big publishing companies, Hachette, their Orbit division acquired Mia's book Shy Girl for its newest imprint, Run For It, which exclusively publishes horror fiction. So good for Mia, right? Like if the story ended here, you would be thinking, oh, good job, girl. Your self-published book is going to be published by a big publisher.
You made it.
You did it. If you don't want to hear, like you know, when you watch a horror movie and there's a point of the movie where you're like, oh, the family moved into the new house and they had their first lovely night together. If you stopped it here, it'd be a happy movie.
It'd be 10 minutes long, but it'd be great.
So here is where things take a turn, because about 2 months ago, readers who read Shy Girl started to publicly ask whether this book was written using AI. On a Reddit subreddit called Horror Lit, one user who identified themselves as a book editor with 12 years of experience under their belt, specifically identifying AI prose, asked, does anyone else think this was written by ChatGPT? The post reads, I know, not an accusation to make lightly. I'm not making it lightly. I have a lot to say, and I'll try to organize this post as best I can. Me, book editor of 12 years, I've had people from over the last few years send me ChatGPT creative writing. My job with these AI pieces was to see if I could humanize them or get them to a point where it was enjoyable to read or even acceptable. The answer was generally no. ChatGPT might be able to write a passage that sounds good, but there are two problems with that. A passage does not a novel make. A novel is not a collection of passable passages. It's a singular thing and needs to work as a singular thing. And it seems good at first glance. On second glance, it's not very good. So this was the post that kind of got the conversation of whether or not this book could be AI generated or ChatGPT generated going online.
Yes. And I know we've talked about some of these things before, and I definitely will be talking about fan fiction later. But there are some things people look for when they're trying to figure out if something is AI generated, right?
Yes. So some of this I knew, but a lot of this was stuff I had never heard. So this user who said that they had all this experience with AI writing felt that the novel had all of these key hallmarks of AI generated writing. Things like emotional or even emotionally overwrought text, the use of adjectives and weather similes, light and dark metaphors and stock words such as quiet, chaos, and violence. They made an entire exhaustive list of all of the sort of linguistic quirks that they thought made them think like, okay, this could be AI. Just the phrasing of describing a smell and describing it as something X, something Y, things being in three a lot, or using the linguistic construction 2X, 2Y in a lot of different passages. Also, they said the book has near perfect grammar, which, according to this post, is something that is like very rare in creative writing, which I had not heard nor even considered, but I'm not a book editor. They also talked about the telltale M dashes to separate clauses, that is actually an AI tell I've heard of. Although, tell that to Emily Dickinson, right? Girl loved a dash.
A lot of people do love
too.
a dash, and now it's become I'm not AI, I promise.
It threw me off when I first saw that because I used to do that a lot, and I'm like, oh damn, I think I'd be I'd fail classes.
So I am the person that you've just described, Anney, where when I was in grad school, I studied a lot of Emily Dickinson's writing, and I loved her use of dashes. And I was a lot younger, but I was like, oh, dashes signal that you are like deep and like a real deep writer, deep thinker. Subsequently, my work has always been dash heavy, but now I take them out because I don't want anyone getting the wrong idea. And I think that the way that you put that is so right, because listen, I'm no computer scientist, but I have to imagine that since AI is trained on lots and lots and lots of human writing, often stolen, copyrighted writing that has been used to train AI without the author's consent, of course it is going to be harder to tell what is written by AI and what is written by a human. I read this interesting op-ed in the New York Times by a writer about this whole incident, and she said, humans don't write like AI, AI writes like humans. And I think that really kind of gets at what you're saying, that, a lot of people use these quirks. Doesn't mean it's AI necessarily.
Yes. And I think that's the heart of the conversation that we're going to get into. But because we live in such a destabilized, like even before AI had become such a presence in our lives, reality just feels so subjective now. It just feels like I don't know what's true or not anymore. And now AI is getting involved in that. And so you are questioning, like, did somebody write this or is this AI? Where are these things? Is it the M dash? They're talking about the weather, like looking for all of these signs, wherein it could be AI or it could be somebody that AI learned from.
Yeah. It's part of this conversation. People were putting in works that were clearly written before AI was ever a thing. Like somebody put in the Declaration of Independence or Frankenstein, and a lot of AI detectors said, oh, this is 98% AI. And obviously the founding fathers were not using ChatGPT to write the Declaration of Independence. But of course, all of those texts helped train AI. So in a kind of way, it is, I think, particularly perhaps the overuse of AI detection tools might be part of that. But I do also just agree. I think that we're in a time where we don't know who to trust. I think we are really, really craving authentic voices. And I think media has really gotten to a place where people have reason to be really skeptical. And so I think everybody's just on a hair trigger right now. In some ways, that is how we should be. We should always be very skeptical and very critical and like ask questions about what we're seeing online and in media. But I think this reveals just how kind of fraught it all is right now. I think you're totally right.
Yes. And in this particular case study does really showcase a lot of those anxieties and people looking at this author and trying to prove like, oh, they definitely used AI and here's other instances and the impact it had on her life, but also just why it mattered so much to so many people. So
yeah,
yes. Can we come back to what
totally
happened?
So some people were even saying that a separate interview that Mia did about the book, it seemed like maybe she used AI to generate her answer. So I said that to say that this is not the only project, Shy Girl, where AI accusations have swirled around this particular writer. So this popular book YouTube channel, Frankie's Shelf, which has over 200,000 followers, made a 2.5-hour-long video titled, quote, "I think this is AI slop," that over 1 million people watched. I clicked in, honestly, 2.5 hours. I don't got the time. So I don't got the time. So I did not watch the video myself, is what I'm saying. But
it's long.
yeah, that's like Avengers Endgame. That's the length of like a real movie.
A long one.
So John Wick Chapter 4 is the longest movie in the franchise. And I use that as an example because I saw John Wick in the theater and I was like, how long is a fucking movie? It's 2 hours and 49 minutes long. So about as long as John Wick, the longest John Wick movie that I saw in theaters and was counting down the minutes until the movie was over. Like, what is it, illegal to make a movie that's 90 minutes anymore? But I digress. So in this video, Frankie points out that the word sharp appeared 159 times across the 214 pages and had been used to describe abstract concepts like guilt or a silence in a room. Like sharp is not really a word that you would associate with describing abstract concepts. Like usually it's like a physical thing. And so he was saying, well, that's a weird quirk. He also found other overused words like weight, which was used 94 times, edge 84 times, hum or humming used as a descriptor for atmosphere, like a humming atmosphere, and rhythm or rhythmic 42 times. So all of these words that Frankie says, oh, like nobody would use these words to this amount in one project if they weren't using AI. Now, Frankie is careful to say that this doesn't mean the book was AI generated just because it has repetitive words and words used a particular way, because humans also write in this way. Like humans can be formulaic, humans can be repetitive. And just to be super clear, as far as I know, there is no definitive proof that AI was used to write this book. So I don't know. And that's not a question I'm able to answer or that I'm going to be trying to answer in this episode. But more on that in a moment. I guess what I would say is that this whole thing, I'm sorry to say, it really showed me that I don't necessarily have a good sense of when text is or is not AI generated. Like her writing, I read the first few pages of the book. It did not jump out to me as being AI generated. I thought it was a bit unusually written in a style perspective, but it didn't. It would not have jumped out to me as like, oh, that's a telltale AI. I feel like I have a sense of AI writing, and this book to me, it didn't jump out to me as AI generated.
Yeah. I haven't read it, obviously, but it is kind of scary to think that, like, because I feel like I can recognize AI writing too. But what if I can't anymore? What if it's gotten beyond that point?
So yeah, that's my point. And I guess researching this, for me personally, I think I am at that point where AI has gotten so good at sounding like a human writer that what I thought I knew, because you know when you read something AI generated, like, that's not blank, it's blank. That's just blank, blank, blank. Like, you have I have a sense of it in my mind. And researching this, they also, as part of researching it, the New York Times had a thing that was like, oh, can you tell which of these was AI generated? I bombed that test. So I clearly have lost the ability to tell. The way that I always, and I'm actually curious how you all determine whether or not something's AI generated. There's just a flatness to it. There's just like, it's like, there's just a like hollowness to the writing that is like, it's like, and I know it when I see it kind of thing. What about, what's your benchmark?
Well, I think, again, this is something that we're going to get into more towards the like conclusion part, is that I'm really struggling with there. Usually when I think something is AI, it does have a flatness to it. It does have kind of either a strange bluntness or a strange, like, way too much, like way too much, and very repetitive. But it is true that someone can have a style, or someone could be a bad writer, or someone might be, in the world of fan fiction, a non-English speaker, and they're writing in English. And so I have these things that I associate with AI, but I still cannot definitively say that it is AI.
Yeah, honestly, I couldn't tell you. I really couldn't, mainly because there are so many bad writers in general. Not that I know anybody who's a bad writer. I don't know anybody who's a bad writer.
Oh, sure.
Personally. But when you see some bad writing that's like so off the mark that I'm like, this could be AI. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I expect sometimes.
Oh,
and
gosh.
then the ones that are too much, like where it sounds like it's a bad infomercial almost. And I'm like,
yeah,
this also could be AI. So I really have a bad like market when it comes to writing. I feel like videos and pictures and such are a little more telltale signs. Still, I've still gotten got by some of these videos. I'm like, son of a biscuit, you mean that random animal is not doing this really cute thing?
Animal videos get me a lot.
Why do they do this? That plays with my emotion. I need it to be real. Anyway, but like, yeah, I think I'm just going to be real honest and be like, I'm not sure if I would catch it.
Somebody listening is thinking, these three idiots, how can they not catch it? To that person, I say, take that New York Times AI writing test. It is harder than you think. And I'm someone who spends a lot of time thinking about AI, and I was surprised by how difficult it was to tell with writing. At this point with video, I honestly have almost kind of like divested from short form video because so much of it is AI. And I just kept there. It started with a video of bunnies on a trampoline. This was like months and months and months ago. And I sent that to a bunch of my friends. I put it in the group chat. My friends roasted me. They were like, what are you, someone's Mima putting AI generated video slop in the group chat? What's the matter with you? I got such a like, I was like, okay, well, I'll never post another video in the group chat again.
The telltale sign, you have to go into comments because the comments will tell you. Someone is out there being sleuth, because I almost fell for that one too. I was like, oh, and then I pulled up the comments. I was like, damn it, AI.
Yeah.
And I know what you're talking about.
People, I would say, like, when I do like trainings around recognizing AI generated content, like, people should know what their triggers are, because I clearly have some sort of a trigger for like cute animal videos. Clearly that is a place where I am totally willing to let my guard down and like suspend my disbelief. Right. And I need to stay, when I see a cute animal video, now I'm like extra alert. So get a sense of what your specific triggers are around like content online. Although we were talking about this skit that the comedian Drewski made where he's like dressed up as a conservative woman. Yes. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's Erica Kirk. And so that happened. And then there was this almost entirely AI generated, fabricated claim that Erica Kirk was suing him, which is not happening. And I saw this video that purported to show Drewski, who I know what he looks like, talking about how Erica Kirk was suing him. And I had researched this, so I knew it wasn't the case, but I would never have looked at that video and thought, like, it looked real. Like, I would never, if I didn't already know from researching it that that was not true, I would have never in a million years thought this was not a video of Drewski talking about a situation happening to him.
Okay, you just alerted me to that because I just heard that video and I kind of went on with it, but I didn't think either way. I just went, yeah, that sounds about right, and moved on.
Yeah. As far as we know, like as of our recording, Erica Kirk has had no response. So if you see a tweet or a video purporting to say otherwise, it's don't get got. There's that AI tool. They're so good. That one would, if I didn't know already, that one would have got me.
They're trying to get me. We are both Mimos.
Yes.
Well, so there's kind of another interesting side to this too, though, is that, you know, when we're talking about Shy Girl, there was this uproar about, oh, is there AI? And it went to the publisher. It went like all over the place with people demanding, like, is this AI? Do something about it.
Yes. So people were pissed. They were reaching out to Mia's publisher, Hachette, asking whether or not this book was AI generated. And so there was a little bit of a witch hunt element to this. I don't want to say that like with like a negative connotation necessarily, but like I just gotta say, I think that just shows how much people do not want AI in their writing. I personally cannot ever see myself taking it upon myself to like email a stranger's publisher to ask if AI was used. I understand why people want to know. Maybe you bought the book or read the book and feel misled now. It taps into exactly the kind of distrust that you were talking about earlier, Anney. I personally find the witch hunt angle to be like, it surprises me that people are that invested in it, that they will take it upon themselves to be like, I'm going to watch a 3-hour-long video about it and then email the publisher. Like, that surprises me, but I just think it goes to show how much people don't like and don't want and don't trust AI. After the New York Times got involved, the publisher dropped the book. So the book is being pulled. It is no more. So the New York Times, they did an investigation and they said that they concluded the book was written by AI. This is from the Times. The Times analyzed passages from the novel using several AI detection tools and found recurring patterns characteristic of AI-generated text, like gaps in logic, excessive use of melodramatic adjectives, and an over-reliance on the rule of three. Max Spiro, who is the founder and chief executive of Pangram, which is like an AI detection program, says that he heard about this controversy, he got a copy of the book, and ran his own test, and that test indicated the book was 78% AI generated. He published those findings on social media saying, I'm confident that this is largely AI generated or heavily AI assisted. And so whether or not this definitively proves it, I cannot say. That is like above my pay grade. But that all of that was enough, plus the public pressure for the publisher to drop this book.
Yes. And one thing that I find interesting about this whole conversation is the witch hunt aspect, because I think there is sometimes you just don't like an ending, perhaps, and then you're like, it was AI. You don't have maybe the proof. You might have some evidence, but also, you know, really relying on these AI detection tools when they are not perfect.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that because I saw pretty early on when people were using detection site for papers for young students, and a lot of them were dinged, not because they were actually using AI, but they were using things like autocorrect, or they used it after the fact, which was specific for the program of correcting your grammar, like Grammarly. And that is specific. You can use that. You are encouraged to use that. But that actually brought up the detector and saying they used AI. Like, how does this work?
Yeah, I'm glad that you used that example. I got my start in education and I was teaching right when a lot of these AI plagiarism checker and detector tools were coming up. And the long and short of it is that AI detection platforms, they just really cannot be trusted. The Times spoke to Tuhin Chakrabarti, who is a professor of computer science at Stony Brook University, and he used that guy I told you about earlier, Max Bureau. He used Max Bureau's program, Pangram, to check more than 14,000 self-published novels on Amazon for AI writing. And so that program found that nearly 20% of novels had been essentially written by AI. And so he admits that AI detectors sometimes mistakenly flag human writing as AI generated. But still, he told The Times that he was confident that Pangram was indeed picking up chatbot language. He says the program was built to detect linguistic patterns that are frequently used by large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini, and has a false positive rate of around 1 in 10,000. And that it's also designed to catch human efforts to cover up AI use through editing. So I am no computer scientist, but I do think that we should talk about the fact that these tools are not just randomly mistaken sometimes, they are biased. They more frequently flag text written by non-native English speakers as being AI generated when it's not, just like Anney said that you see in the fan fiction community. Research has consistently shown that these detectors misclassify non-native English as AI generated, while native English is often accurately identified. The numbers are, to me, pretty damning. In one study in Patterns called GPT Detectors Are Biased Against Non-Native English Writers, more than half of the essays written by non-native English speakers were flagged as AI generated with a false positive rate of 61.3%. So that's pretty significant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wouldn't feel confident at all if I knew that the percentage was that high, that it would be incorrect. So why is this happening?
Yeah, that's a great question. It sounds like these tools are trained on style guides and writing examples that are dominated by native English syntax and vocabulary. So writing that deviates from those norms are more often to get flagged as machine-like. So in other words, they're basically just treating standard American or British English as the baseline for what human writing looks like. And then people can get punished if they deviate from that. And as I said, like in educational settings, this was already a big problem that educators were dealing with. When I was teaching, I was told to use these detectors that we now know are biased. And it never happened in any of my classes specifically, but like students could be accused of cheating and have serious consequences like failing a course or being expelled as a result. There have already been documented cases of students being penalized for work that they insist they wrote themselves simply because their writing style did not match what an algorithm expected human writing to look like. And so whether or not I can't speak to the New York Times's AI detection rigor or like how they did it. They don't go into that. But I wanted to mention that because like as we're talking about the Shy Girl situation and everyone rushing to cite AI detection scores as proof that this book was AI generated, I do think it's worth asking, who do these tools actually protect and who do they kind of keep vulnerable or keep at risk for accusations around AI use that may or may not be unfounded?
Yes, especially when, as you mentioned earlier in previous episodes, we were talking about women are more likely to be penalized for using AI if they are found out that they are, whereas for men, it's more likely to be like, oh, you're using the system, great, you know what you're doing. And then to put this faith into these detectors that do have bias in them does leave a lot of room for error and for marginalized people specifically to be hurt more.
Yeah, I mean, I can't not mention the fact that Mia is a Black woman. I have to wonder if that is part of the conversation of why people are kind of going so hard for her and like calling the publisher and all of that. Like that is a reaction that I am surprised by. And I have to wonder if her race and gender is part of it. And I did want to make a little comparison because do y'all remember the writer James Frey? He wrote that book, 1 Million Little Pieces.
Yeah, he was found out for lying essentially about his book. Yes.
Yeah,
because I
his
love that book.
memoir was like, I mean, this incident was like is like burned in my brain.
Me too.
I was on an episode of Behind the Bastards about Oprah, and when we got to this part, I was like, I could tell you everything. I watched the episode in real time. Like, what do you want to know? But yeah, Oprah had made it one of her book club picks, and then when it was revealed to be largely fabricated, she had him on the show to like scold him. And I remember I think he had an outbreak of, what is it called when adults get chicken pox? It has a name when
Shingles?
Shingles. He had like face shingles at the time. And this image of him with face shingles getting scolded by Oprah is just burned in my memory. But so you might think that guy, when it was revealed that he basically made up his memoir and embarrassed Oprah's book club, you might think that he has been like shunned by the literary world. You would be wrong, because he has a new book out and he's talked about, albeit inconsistently, using AI in his writing. He said that AI helped write parts of his book, that he trained AI to match his writing style. He told readers that they would not be able to tell what was AI and what he wrote. He did walk some of this back later when people were like, I'm not so sure about that. So I'm not sure what the truth is, but it is not like he was pillared for this. And in fact, his newest book, which just came out, included a very splashy piece in the British Times under the headline, "America's literary bad boy is back." So there's no accompanying witch hunt to find out if this book used AI like there is with Mia's. And yeah, I'm just curious, like, who gets to just be called like, yeah, he's the literary bad boy, and who gets like angry calls to their publisher.
That's such a cliche phrase, though. I wonder if they were trying to make fun of him a little bit with that literary bad boy.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just going to ask this question in earnest, because there's a little part of me in this, that people who loved her book, who really enjoyed this book and really seemed to it, is it so awful if she did use AI? And I say this in this context of like, we don't want this to be taken.
Yeah.
Of course not. We want good storytelling in any way, in most all of that. We want genuine writing. But at the same time, we see a lot of smut out there that's just randomly thrown at us. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not sincere. Oftentimes, you see series that are picked up by pen writers who are no longer the writers. Is that such a bad in the scope of things? And I say this, I know this is a slippery slope, but
yeah,
just a little bit antagonistic here asking.
It's a fascinating question. And Anney, I'm curious to get your thoughts too, as somebody who does a lot of fan fiction. So I do think that publishers have not really set a firm boundary around what is or is not acceptable when it comes to AI use. And so I think perhaps there is a spectrum where you just have ChatGPT spit out a text and then you copy and paste that, and then that's the book. And did you use ChatGPT or AI to like brainstorm or, clean up your prose? And if you did that, can you still call it genuine human work? That's not a question I can answer. And the issue is that publishers have not made it clear where they stand. They have not made it clear what is acceptable and what is a breach of contract and what is okay. And I think that they're really allowing public sentiment and public outrage to be the thing that drives what should be hard and fast, clear rules and regulations.
Right. I mean, and all this to say, when people steal content, like taking other people's writings as their inspiration and then using that for their ChatGPT writings, that's stealing. Like, we're gonna put that as like an obvious statement here. Like, obviously, Mia was already an established writer. According to previous history, she had been doing writing previously. Again, they said maybe a couple of her other works had been AI. We don't know. With all of this, yeah. What is she saying?
So in an email to the Times, Ballard denied using AI to write Shy Girl. She did contend that an acquaintance that she hired to edit the self-published version of the book might have used AI in the editing process. She said, "The controversy has changed my life in many ways, and my mental health is at an all-time low. and my name is ruined for something I didn't even personally do. Noting that she could not elaborate on how the book had been edited with AI because she was pursuing legal action. And so that's what she says. She says, I didn't use AI. If AI was used, it was somebody that helped me edit the self-published version of this book. I've never self-published a book before, but my understanding is when you self-publish something, you are kind of just on the line for any of the issues that arise. You're just sort of like on the hook for all of that. Because I don't know if that's, but again, I've never done that before myself. So don't, take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, I think you can do it on Amazon and such. Like it's pretty easy to access those types of places. I have a couple of old coworkers who loved writing Mormon romance novels.
Oh.
Yeah. If you want to look that up, I'll tell you later. But like, it's interesting because could we come back and see, much like some of the students that we were talking about previously who came back trying to fight because they were like expelled, completely kicked out of school, being accused of using AI, but it was like Grammarly and things that you came back to check their grammar. Could it be something like that? Like, did she use a system that helped check her grammar or whatnot? And in this moment, all these people went after her as an example.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I guess we don't know, and we may never know in what capacity this was AI generated, if at all. But something about the vibe of the entire internet saying you used AI, and I'm not even sure how. If that happened to me, I'm not even sure what I would do to illustrate that I hadn't, other than I've just written a book and it's been so heavily track changes edited by me and the editor going back and forth that if somebody wanted to pour through all of that, I guess that would illustrate it. But like, it does feel strange that you could write a book and people could just say, oh, this was AI generated. And that might not even be true. And it's just we're in a very weird dynamic where the public's feelings around this have not caught up with our ability to say for sure if something is AI generated or not, and publishing companies their own guidelines. They're really behind on the whole AI conversation when it comes to what they will and will not accept.
Ooh, Anney, we need to go look at our book.
You know what I learned thanks to fan fiction? Okay, the fan fiction community is very, very into this whole thing. There's a lot I could talk about, but one thing I learned recently is if you have a Google Doc, AI can scrape your Google Doc.
Oh.
So fan fiction writers recommend you do not use Google Docs.
That's
and
what we use the entire time.
All I use is Google Docs.
But guess what? For the fan fiction I've written, I've never used Google Docs, even before I knew that. So
what do you use?
Yeah, what do
I
you
just write on a doc and then copy paste.
Oh, your old school Word doc.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But I did get called out for somebody wrote in, was like, you're AI, clearly. And I was like, I can't prove you're wrong, but I'm not. So
Someone accused
but it is
you?
Strange. Yeah, but also you get AI reviews. And I'm like, no, this isn't AI for sure.
So an AI review called out you being AI?
No,
okay.
There's like a spate of, you'll get reviews that are just like, what a good story. Did you know Kyber is from the planet Ilium? And I'm like, yeah, that's a Star Wars fact that's unrelated to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, Google Docs, I don't know the specifics, but I just know that in the fan fiction community, they're like, don't do it.
Always trust fan fiction folks and like other niche, nerdy interests, people who are gathered by interest in some niche, nerdy thing to be ahead. Like they're always got their finger on the pulse. They're ahead. Like whatever it is, it's like, oh, we're 3 steps ahead of y'all already. We've already got a system worked out to avoid this.
We know about the M-dashes. We know that non-native English speakers get penalized.
We know.
Ready. On the ready.
Yes. Yes. But anyway, writing the book, we did use Google Docs. So
it would say that we were AI?
No, it's just going to be, if it scrapes Google Docs, then it's going to take that and run with it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have used Google Docs. Like, it's all I use. So everything
Us
I've
too.
written is probably being used to train AI. You're welcome, OpenAI. Sam Altman, you can cut me a check anytime.
Exactly.
Or I guess I should say Sundar Pichai, head of Google, you can cut me a check anytime.
I don't know the specifics. We should come back and talk about that, though.
Yeah, I'll do some research.
Yes. There's a lot for you to be talking about right now, Bridget. That's for sure. But in this specific conversation, so you've been talking about the publishers. That's kind of the issue, is that there aren't clear guidelines. And I do think that is really important, because this actually happens at our local conference, DragonCon, where there's an art room, and they were like, you have to tell people you used AI, and if you don't, get out. Like, there has to be that trust you were talking about earlier, Bridget, wherein maybe you do use it for ideas, but even then, people might like to know that, and they might be okay with that, but it's sort of that wanting to know and feeling misled. And so if there aren't these guidelines, and this is a very rapidly changing, like, internet world that we live in, then I think people feel betrayed if they don't know what they're getting.
Exactly. And we just don't have a framework for that right now. You would think that publishers would be setting that framework. And I guess there is initiatives where they'll say, like, oh, this is a human-led work, but there's not really a way. That's all kind of like honor system right now. And so we're all just sort of waiting for these institutions and mechanisms to catch up with the reality that we're in. And I'll just say, it doesn't sound like publishing companies have moved very quickly. The Times noted that while publishers have maintained a firm line against AI-generated text and images and require authors to attest that their work is original in their publishing contracts, but few publishing companies have clear policies or measures to prevent users from writing with AI. And with the Shy Girl situation, I will say, I was surprised that, and maybe it has to do with her book being self-published and then being acquired. I was surprised that a big publishing company like Hachette would not have editors. Like, I feel like so many people have to read a book before it's published. I was surprised that this was something that would only be being addressed the first time by social media commenters. Like, that surprised me. And I think, like, even if contracts say that writers need to affirm that their writing is original, what does that mean exactly? The Times reports that publishers are skeptical of AI-generated content, partly because it can't be copyrighted, but that since AI is so commonly used in things like outlining and research and other early stages of writing, there's no real consensus, according to the Times, in the publishing industry about where that line should be drawn. And so many people feel like this ambiguity just opens the door to bad actors or even well-meaning writers who don't realize that they've maybe gone too far when it comes to AI use in their work.
And we also don't really know the scope of AI writing, right?
Yeah, that I found to be so interesting, because if you just open up Amazon, you'll find so much obvious AI slop that's, like, easy to determine. But when it comes to big publishing companies, it seems harder to tell. And the Times reported that AI is just leading to more books being published in general. They write, it's nearly impossible to gauge how much AI writing is getting published, but there's evidence that the technology has led to a surge of books. Last year, more than 3.5 million books were self-published, up from 2.5 million in 2024, according to industry data. And so it does seem like more and more books are being traditionally published, and some of those books are probably in part written with or by AI. And so a publishing company not having clear rules around it is really a problem. And another thing they pointed out in that piece is that one reason why publishing companies might be a little less willing to set a firm boundary is because they might want to be able to use AI in-house for things like marketing or translation or narration, right? So they can't really, they're in a little bit of a rub where they can't really say, we have banned AI usage altogether only for our writers. In-house, we'll use AI however we see fit, and we don't have to tell you. Like I understand the sort of rub that they're in where they want to use it in some capacities, but they want to control when and how and who.
Yes. And I do think it's really important that this whole public perspective on it as well, of how the public is viewing the usage of AI in art and how companies are reacting to it. Because it's clear that companies they're like, yes, I would like to use it for this, this, and this. Let us please not have this conversation and move on. But something like this, with what happened with Shy Girl, kind of forced the company to come out and make a statement.
So Hachette did come out with a public statement. I really think that the heart of their statement is like, do whatever, just don't embarrass us. I genuinely think that's what it is. So they only put out this statement when the Shy Girl controversy blew up on social media. Their statement says, we encourage responsible experimentation with AI for operational uses and recognize the benefits of remaining curious and embracing technology. Our industry relies on the creative talent of humans and would not exist without it. The value of our partnerships with our creative contributors cannot be overstated. We draw a distinction between operational uses, i.e., uses that help us fulfill our mission and make it easy for more people to have access to our books and other products, and creative uses, i.e., uses that harness AI to replace the creative work of a human author, designer, illustrator, translator, or photographer. For this reason, we are opposed to machine creativity in order to protect original creative content produced by humans. We recognize that this is a fast-moving area and will continue to be guided by industry standards and the needs of key creative rights holders. So, to me, I'm no lawyer, but reading that statement, to me, it sounds like we use AI when we want to. What are you, crazy? We think we're not going to use AI? But we don't think our writers should use it, and we'll continue to update that as we see fit. Thanks.
That phrase, machine creativity, that's a whole, like, oxymoron. I don't know how else to explain that.
And I guess that's my whole kind of so what. And this is just my opinion. I think that big publishing companies are kind of hanging writers out to dry by not having clear policies. It's like they're waiting for a big, embarrassing dust-up that will put the burden on the individual writer to deal with, rather than proactively come up with a clear policy, because they want to make sure that they have carve-outs for how they want to use AI, or how they might want to use AI going down the line. So, and I think in 2026, it's just common sense that you need to have a policy around AI.
It sounds like they're opening themselves up to a lawsuit.
That's what I think. Yeah,
It feels like very discriminatory.
Well, so again, I don't know what's going to happen with the Mia Ballard Shy Girl situation, but let's say that, for the sake of argument, she says, okay, well, my editor used AI in this editing process, but the only stipulation in my contract is that AI will not be used to create the first pass or something. Is she able to sue for breach of contract because they dropped her book? Like not having... I'm just a big believer in the power of contracts. I'm like, I can't tell you how many times having a good contract negotiated by a good lawyer has saved my butt. And I think having just a, and again, I've not seen her contract, so I don't know what it says, but just having a line that says, oh, authors will attest that the work is original is not enough. And I just wonder what kind of legal precedent that's setting, or what kind of holes are being left open, because it's just so ambiguous what that actually means.
I mean, it sounds original.
Yeah.
The idea.
Yeah.
Just say it.
I just read, as that right before we came on to talk, I just read that, the romance publisher Harlequin. So just today, it was announced that they struck a multi-year deal with Dashverse, which is an AI entertainment company, to make 40 animated micro dramas based on Harlequin titles using Dashverse's AI tool Framio, which generates complete short films from text prompts in about 3 weeks each. And so the details of this are that authors will get royalties through monetized ads and subscriptions, though Harlequin did not give deal specifics on what that looks like. And they say that the videos are illustrator assisted. I'm not 100% sure what they mean by that, but I think that they're positioning it as a human AI creative collaboration rather than fully automated. I think that's how they are trying to frame it. I cannot speak to whether or not that is actually the case, but it just goes to show that some big publishers are clearly fine with AI.
That's an interesting take, though, to take the old school Harlequin romance, because there's numerous amounts. Believe me, as a child, when I was sticking to my, not my mom for some odd reason, but for other moms that had the closet full of all of the romances, I'm like, yeah, let me go find that. I was a weird teenager. But like, there's tons of that. So that's an interesting idea to go back to taking some of those, which is still beloved, obviously, in ways, and then making these types of creations. And also noting that they're going to get royalties, but is it like 50 cents? Like they get the residual weirdly checks, like from streaming type of thing? That's an interesting, but it's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I mean, the head of Dashverse, their CEO, said exactly what you just said, that they're excited that this is bringing global entertainment franchises from existing IP powered by AI. And so, and it kind of, like, I kind of get what he's saying, that like, if you have a bunch of existing titles and IP, that they're like, oh, well, why wouldn't we use AI to just like get to squeeze more revenue out of that? I get what they are saying, but I think that there is no one clear standard around AI in publishing. In some cases, it's fine and it's celebrated in this, splashy press release about how this is going to use AI to get more revenue and value out of your IP. In some cases, people are losing their book deals.
Right.
And so I guess it's we're just in a new territory, and I think we need more guidance, more guardrails, more clarity around it, because we're all sort of navigating it in real time, and I don't think it has to be that way.
Is Fabio still alive? Because I need to know his take on these Harlequin romance.
He is still alive
comebacks.
because he got hit by what did he get hit by? He was hit by a bird.
That was forever ago.
Oh, I guess that was 1999.
That was forever ago, Bridget. Even I knew that.
Everything is so outdated. My reference came back.
He was in Sharknado. Come on.
Okay, I was like, that was 1999. That was like, what, 10 years ago?
Baby.
I saw someone say, like, 2026 was 10 years ago, and I was like, what are you talking about? It was like 2 years ago. Like, don't tell me no shit about how long. Like, in my mind, the year 2000 was 10 years ago, and I won't hear anything else. And anything else that you have to say about that, to me, is wrong.
It's wrong. It's true. But I need to know if he's going to get his second wind, that he's about to come to relevance again because of this specifically. Harlequin romance is coming back
Heaving
as
bosoms.
a digital.
Yeah. They better, if they're going to do this, they better have some like blowing long hair and some heaving bosoms.
On the pirate ship. For
sure. Yes.
Well, see, this is also the issue, though. Are they going to pay Fabio? Are they going to pay?
Have stand-ins. They would literally take art from real life people to make these covers. So I wonder.
Exactly. So that's like if you're bringing this AI element to it, because contracts back then didn't know about AI. They didn't know about any of that. So probably not going to get anything. And then you're watching yourself in an AI video like, oh.
That is a whole other, we could do, I'll come back and that's a whole, like, that is happening. It sounds Black Mirror, but that is happening.
I wonder how successful this will be, because part of the Harlequin romance, the books, the smutty books that we love, is because you can imagine it for yourself.
Yeah.
So you create these pictures. So, and then what happens when books are made into movies, people have a lot of feels because you've picked the wrong people in their minds, the people they pictured. So now that they're taking this from these very descriptive books that really play into your imagination and then playing it into this, I wonder how successful it will be.
That's a good question. And I mean, part of it is like, I cannot imagine that this takes a lot of human labor to feed the whatever book prompts into their video generator. I'm sure it takes not zero human labor,
right?
But I wonder if they've just made like a cost benefit analysis of, even if hardly any. I mean, it kind of goes back to what I was talking about with AI podcasts. AI podcasts exist. If you wanted to listen to them, you absolutely could. There's plenty of them to choose from. People don't want to listen to them. And I think that the math that these people are doing are that like, oh, well, they're cheap to make. So even if not a lot of people want this kind of content, and boy, do they not want this kind of AI generated content, even if a few people engage with it, that might make it worth it. That's the sort of math I bet they're doing.
It's interesting to see how many cases of this are playing out right now of maybe companies seeing, oh, there is something more to this math that is not just the monetary, because it has become like you as a creative, you do not want to get the AI thing attached to you.
No.
It is not good. It is something that you try to avoid. And I do think that it touches on some anxieties we have, but also what people want, like what you were talking about earlier, like that trust, which I think personally, as someone in this industry, companies should pay attention to.
Yeah. I mean, in my talk about AI use, that was my entire kind of so what. Yes, it might be cheap and quick and easy to produce AI generated content, but in doing so, it's not just the warm, fuzzy, squishy reasons why somebody would want to prioritize human voices in content because we all trust humans, yada, yada, yada. It's also a business question. Do you want your brand associated with quick, cheap, lazy slop? I know that I do not want my brand associated with quick, cheap, lazy slop that might not even be accurate, might not even be true. And so that's not just like an ethical, squishy question. It's also a dollars and cents business question of, would that be good for your brand? Would that be a positive association with your brand to have your brand be associated with AI content that we know can be, let's face it, just trash? And so I think that we have kind of, I would like to see the conversation reframed in that way so that you don't associate people who are talking about why it's so important to champion human voices in creative work. We're not sort of being cast aside of like, warm, fuzzy do-gooders. We're actually talking hardline dollars and cents, the kind of stuff that people who are financial decision makers at media companies ought to be paying attention to.
Well, we're guaranteed human, so.
That's right. Guaranteed human.
Yeah. Me saying it sounded even worse.
And I guess I want to end on this because I think the big takeaway here is how much audiences are telling us they do not want AI-generated content in their writing. And for all the stuff I've talked about, it actually kind of makes me feel excited about being a creative professional. I really liked this hopeful advice from writer Andrea Bartz in the New York Times. She writes, "I fear it could fall on us authors to prove our writing is our own. The advice I often hear from fellow authors is hopeful, if a bit hippy-dippy. Write something weird, break all the rules, pour your heart and soul into it because nobody can tell a story quite like you, baby." And yeah, this whole kerfuffle has really got me appreciating the fact that I have terrible grammar. I really can't spell, an AI didn't write it. Look how badly written it is.
All the asterisks are mine, damn it.
Yeah.
For me.
That's quite a silver lining, yes. But it is true, because I think when you see that, like if we made a mistake on the podcast, we are people, and people will write in and be like, you made this mistake, and then we'll respond to it. And that having that kind of connection, but also having that moment of like, oh yeah, it wasn't perfect because I am a human person who does make mistakes.
Yeah, I was reading, there was some celebrity that did, I can't remember who it was, but that did something bad for which they had to publish like a Notes app apology. And I remember the top comment, and it was a bad apology. And the top comment was, well, at least we know they didn't use AI to write this apology. At least it came from the heart.
I can't imagine going to AI and being like, write this apology for me, please. Here's what I've done.
They used to use their publicists, so.
Yeah, I mean, is that any better?
Right.
That's true. That's true. Well, once again, I have so many thoughts. We could keep going and going and going. But thank you so much, Bridget, for bringing this to us. I had not heard of it and learned a lot.
Try to follow up on this case.
Yes, we should check back in. Well, before we do that, where can the good listeners find you, Bridget?
You can pre-order my audiobook, Love at First Prompt, all about intimacy and AI at loveatfirstprompt.ai. You can follow my podcast, There Are Oracles on the Internet, or check me out on Instagram at Bridget Marie in DC.
Yes. And listeners, go and do all of that if you haven't already. If you would like to email us, you can. You can email hello@stuffmomnevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky, a Mom Stuff podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have some merchandise at Cop Bureau, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christine, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.